turn our attention to this now. The experimental drug Lecanemab shows potential as a treatment for Alzheimer's, according to a new phase 3 trial result. But the findings raise some safety concerns because of its association with certain serious and adverse effects. Professor Girish Modi, a neurologist at the Faculty of Health Sciences at Wits University, joins me for a further discussion on this. Prof, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Now, Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia, and this terminal as well as progressive brain disorder has no known cause for cure. Now, firstly, talk us through what this condition is, and it's also said to be one condition that slowly steals the minds of its victims.
That is correct. Everything you said is correct. It is the commonest form of dementia that we know. Some people would disagree that in Africa, possibly vascular dementia is much more common. But given that globally we look at all the different causes of dementia, and Alzheimer's is the single biggest health burden when it comes to these illnesses. How does it start? Well, you know, the cause, like you said earlier, is not known. The proposed mechanism is that in the nerve cells, there's a protein called amyloid. Now, amyloid, we don't exactly know its functions, but it does seem to have some neural repair function, some function in nerve cell stabilization. But in this condition, whereas physiologically, normally, that amyloid protein is cleared by a certain enzyme pathway, in Alzheimer's, what happens is that there's an abnormality in the entire cleavage or breakdown system of the amyloid protein, and it accumulates in the nerve cells. Once it accumulates in the nerve cells, it's toxic, damages the nerve cells, and destroys them. Interestingly enough, and this is all the interest in why it's such a fascinating disorder, is this seems to begin first in your temporal lobes. These are the cortexes on either side.
Right.
And these lobes are involved in memory, language, maths, intellectual functions, and then slowly it moves to the frontal cortex, which is involved in executive functions. So the earliest symptom in Alzheimer's is loss of memory. And that's where, you know, we have this big problem because some people feel loss of memory is just part of what we call minor cognitive impairment that may occur with age. I mean, think about it. We all become distracted with too many things happening, and we all have brief episodes of memory loss. That doesn't mean we all have Alzheimer's. And once you hit the roaring 60s and the funky 70s, you're going to be in trouble with memory. We all know that. You forget your keys, you forget this, you forget that. Doesn't mean you have Alzheimer's. Other symptoms come into being. You not only lose your memory, you lose your geographical and topographical orientation, which means you go to a place that you're very familiar with and you get lost in it, like a supermarket or a mall, or you have difficulty finding your way home or something like that. So then you get all these other symptoms. Then you start having difficulty making decisions. Your executive functions start getting impaired. By the time you go to a doctor, most of these symptoms are already in place. There are various tests that we can do to enable us to make a proposed diagnosis. Remember, this is one of the big challenges in Alzheimer's. We don't have a blood test or a scan test or any test that is 100% accurate. It's a conglomeration of many things that we do to try and make this diagnosis. Having made the diagnosis, we then monitor the patient, we treat currently symptomatically, we try and improve memory with these memory-enhancing drugs, we also try and improve behavior, etc. The problem is we have no cure for this disease. Many drug trials have come and gone, and to date there's been zero that has worked. Now, this new drug, Lecanemab, that everyone's getting excited about, there may be a good reason to get excited because it's the first drug, and it's interesting because it's an antibody that has shown any promise in terms of delaying, slowing down the symptoms of Alzheimer's. So this is why there's just so much excitement about it. It's not a cure. Please, let's get this straight. It's still early stages. We must look at this with cautious optimism. There have been, as you said, with this drug, some serious adverse events, intracranial hemorrhages, the brain hemorrhages as we call them, have been described. And so there are major concerns as well. But it's created, and this is important, it's created some hope in terms of finding treatments that may now evolve.
It's very important to note that this drug is in the trial phase, like you've alluded to. Insofar as the trial results are concerned, are there findings raising some safety concerns? Expand a bit more about this, because of its association with these certain adverse effects.
So we must remember this has gone through a phase 3 trial, so it's been tested in humans. This trial had about 1,900, to be exact, 1,975 patients enrolled in this trial. And there was a 27% improvement in the symptoms of Alzheimer's, which is phenomenal in the sense that it's the first time we've seen something like that. In terms of adverse events, the big and the most dangerous one has been the hemorrhages or bleeding in the brain. There have been other side effects that have been described, and there are quite a few, from confusion, disorientation, etc. So, and they haven't been consistent or permanent, but the bleeding in the brain is a big one, because once that happens, it happens. You can't reverse that.
Now, although Lecanemab is being tested as an Alzheimer's drug, experts caution that this is not exactly a cure. Tell us a bit more about that very quickly.
Well, exactly, it's not a cure. But you see, the interest in it is in the fact that it's for the first time we've got an antibody. Monoclonal antibodies are like targeted. They go to a specific protein, they bind specifically. So it's a phenomenal technology. And an antibody, it's like when you get a vaccine, you create antibodies to protect you. So it's a similar kind of thing, but they found this antibody that binds exactly to the amyloid protein and breaks it down. So it clears amyloid from the brain cells. So that's how it works, which in itself is a phenomenal thing. It's never been shown to do that. No, there is no drug that can clear amyloid from your nerve cells. So I think that's the excitement. The fact that the data show that 27% slowing down of the disease, it's, once again, not astounding in terms of the figures, but there's some improvement. And so you always start these things accepting the little results and then hoping to get better outcomes as the trials go on or as you modify the drugs. But it's created an avenue that we can now address further, in the sense that we can use other antibodies maybe to do this better.
That is Professor Girish Modi, a neurologist at the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of the Witwatersrand, speaking to us about that treatment for Alzheimer's disease, although it comes with some warnings that it may have contained some adverse effects, especially as it's now in the trial phase. Coming up,